Well, welcome folks. This is my Gramercy cart review and step-by-step assembly. Bought this today from my daughter Isabella. I said to use as a craft cart and bought it from Michael's store. Yours for about $50, and unfortunately no discount coupon available to use on this one as it's one of their everyday pricing ranges. But if you want to see the contents of this box turned into this cart, then keep on watching as I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to assemble this. And it's fairly easy. You don't need any tools or those supplied with it, and about 20 to 30 minutes of your time. One person on their own should be able to assemble this very easily. It would be a couple of places, a spare pair of hands might help, but you can definitely assemble this on your own. Anyway, let's see what we get for our money and exactly how to assemble it step by step. So what is there to like about it? Well, it comes with 10 different accessories for holding all the art supplies on there, and each shelf holds up to £20, making for a total storage of 60. It's also got 2 locking casters on the bottom. And if you've just bought one of these and are watching this, hopefully this will help out, because this is what we start out with: our instruction manual, and these are all of the parts that are contained in the Gramercy cart that you're going to need to assemble. But the good thing being, it comes with everything you need in terms of the tools, the nuts, the washers, etc. So all you've got to do is put the thing out the side and follow these instructions. You're going to take these 2 parts and you're going to fit the casters to them. Now, as I said, there are 2 locking casters and 2 non-locking casters. You don't do one and then the other. Both of the non-locking ones go on one side and both of the locking ones go on the other side. Okay, when it comes to the assembly of these, you're going to put the 2 non-locking ones on one side and the 2 locking ones on the other side, according to the instructions. Don't be tempted to try, as I did to start with, to try and screw these in by hand, because they're on the wheel. On the pivot there, they will just turn and turn and turn. However, if you hold them like that and grab it between your index and your thumb, you will be able to get them to bite in, as it makes them a little bit quicker than trying to spin them round with the so you need to hold the whole of that bottom thing, and then when they're close enough, then use the wrench to tighten them, and do that on the same with all 4. But people tell me sometimes they don't quite do these step by step. So that's the 2 non-locking ones in on one side, and now I'm going to do exactly the same with the others. So what I'm doing there, folks, grasping that between my thumb and forefinger. Okay, if you grasp that top part at the same time, it will turn in. If you try and just spin this, the 2 will, because this is on ball rounds, the thing just won't tighten at all. So you need to grasp that top part in order to spin it in. It just saves time over using the spanner. They do not need, and when you get them finger tight, the spanner won't tighten them up that much further. Anyway, I'm going to do the other locking one on this side. One complete with the locking wheels on here. In step 2, we're going to take these 2 parts and fasten them into the top. And we've got legs going outward like that, if you can see from the sides there, folks. So if you don't want them facing inwards like that, you want them facing outwards. This is one of these jobs where you could definitely do with somebody else, but I like to do these things sort of as much as possible. I like to show these things being assembled, if you can, by one person, and then I can say, oh, you definitely need somebody to do this. Now, to assemble that, I'm going to push that little ball in until it locks in there. And the same on that side, sliding that down. Now that will sort, Richie says, to stay up, get that one. Just ensure, again, the balls are pointing to the inside. And time to line them up. Again, push that in at the same time as pushing down. Push that one in at the same time, pushing down, and they should line up. Oh, he says, and they line up on there. And when they're in place, the balls will pop out, and that will lock it, enabling you to be able to lift the whole thing up by these handles. Step 3: attach the first pin, metal A, to the frame with bolts using hex key M. So we're going to use 4 bolts on it. So count yourself out. For the one thing I would say, folks, is be more sensible than I've done. And at the start, this is my daughter's wanting me to do this in a hurry tonight, so I'm trying to do it at the same time as video. Put them all upright like that, everything into little piles, and then you cannot go too wrong. And you can also establish if you've got all the parts that you actually need for the job. So we're going to need 4 of these bolts and 1 of these trays. All the trays appear, he says, identical. Just sanity checking there, all trays are identical. Now holding this job, this is part of the job where a second person would be of help, but once you've got 2 of these screws in, tighten it in as much as you can there by hand, keeping the screws to hand down here. Now this is going to need to pull in slightly at the bottom because the wheels are wanting to roll outwards, so that was where I was querying whether all 3 trays were the same size, which logic would tell me they were. Now while the other one went in by hand, that one is a little stiffer. Don't try and over tighten these. If these bolts bind at all, then something is dramatically wrong. I'm going to semi-tighten them with the screw to give myself a fighting with the hex key rather. They're going together very easily though. Now, the great thing about it being on casters, we can turn that round and start to put the other 2 bolts in. I would say, guys, if I wasn't filming this would be a lot easier to do. I have a feeling once I've got 1 tray in, and it's this is where I've started with the bottom one, because the bottom one was always going to be the most awkward one, he says, and then something will typically go wrong on camera and make the other one even more awkward. Once you've got 1 in, life should be a lot easier there. As I say, none of these should bind. If they bind at all, take them back out because you've maybe got the screw sitting in there at an angle. Only thin metal, so I'm not going to go. I'm going to make sure they're tight, not going anywhere, but I'm not going to over tighten it and start to bend the metal. Okay guys, our first shelf in. Now it says step 3, you turn over, and step 4 has got all the bins in there. So they've kind of missed out a step in the manual there, because obviously the next step is to put the other 2 bins in the top here, which is what I shall do now. It should be, he says, a little bit easier. Now I've got some tension between the pillars with the bottom tray on. The frame is taking the weight. That tray held in there. It's just the tension on the frame that's holding it together on there. It just makes life a little bit easier. It means you don't need 2 people. Spin those in as much as you can by hand. Working with it on the side like this is much easier. I would recommend doing this. I did it so I could film this, but it's actually proving quite handy being able to spin it round while on the work surface here. Okay, so on the second shelf, all we've got to do, tighten all 4 bolts up with the Allen key. And as I mentioned, you won't need, or it says on the instructions, you won't need any tools other than the Allen key or hex wrench that they've supplied with it, and that little spanner as well. I would think probably allow yourself about half an hour to put this together. Next, third shelf, top shelf. I've dropped it down onto the ground where I'm not struggling to get the angle to look at it too much. Some of the screws they're slightly stiff, but they shouldn't be overly stiff. If they're too stiff, they're binding, which means that the screw's in at an angle, and if you tighten it in at an angle, you'll strip the thread on it, and you'll find yourself going back to the shop saying, this thing doesn't fit together, and they will tell you you've broken it. Okay, lastly, do the same again with a hex wrench, tightening everything up. Everything being, with it being on casters, you can spin it around to work on it fairly easily. And there, the Gramercy cart is coming together. I would even go so far as to say a child could possibly put this together. I would say you want somebody maybe about 14 years old plus for the patience for it, and a couple of places it would be easier with 2 of you doing the job for holding the bits at the bottom, but it can definitely be assembled by 1 person. Okay, now for step number 4, you're going to hang the metal plate D onto the edge of the shelves. Now it's got a hook on the top, but you can get it the wrong way around because it also appears to have a hook on the bottom. But if you were to hook it on that way, you'll notice these hooks are the wrong way round. That is because each of these hooks is going to go over one of the bins here. So while that goes in over the top bin, you're going to need to sort of want to slide the thing up, pushing in at the bottom. This is possibly a job where another person might be able to give you a hand, making sure that one's on the top. At the same time that you're ensuring that's going over the top, you're also ensuring that's going on the middle and that's going over the bottom, in order that when the thing is pushed down home, it's not going to pull loose from the side. So there is our shelf ready to have our hanging hooks on. 5 is to place the storage box E, and there's 4 white hooks on the end here. So what I'm going to do to give myself a fighting chance, placement wise, I'm going to put that storage box so it's right at the bottom. Then I'm going to count up and space the 4 hooks out evenly along the end. Now these 4 hooks are going to go through on the end. Spacing wise for the 4 hooks, I found two holes apart between each of the hooks, and then you've got space at the bottom here. If you've got any pens or markers or anything coming up, you give yourself a little bit more leeway at the bottom there. So the right idea, hang that towards the bottom, and then 2 holes spacing the 4 hooks apart. So step number 6, folks. Step 6 and 7. Do pay attention to the bits you've got left on the side here. Close order to all those parts, folks, because the bits you need for step 6 are not this bit as I first picked up, but they're these bits. But what you're going to do is get 2 of these snap connectors, and those are going to pop on. I'm going to put one on. There's a reason for that. It's because I want to know roughly where to pop the next one on, and you simply just push those on by hand, and those clip on over the top to protect your surface there. This is called the ribbon dowel frame for reference on there, and this is called the ribbon dowel rod, and that simply slots on over the top there. Another 2 of the connectors now, and they're roughly where they are. Simply push them on to the side there. It says they should go on fairly easily. You slide along, fairly easy adjustment. Take that remaining dowel rod on there, and it's coming together. That is step number 6 done. So lastly, step number 7, turn the cart around. Definitely much easier doing it up on the side here, guys, than trying to do it down on the floor. So we've got our gift organizer here. We use the snap connectors again on the top side here. Quite handy these, so the steel doesn't get scratched. And then this one is going to go on the bottom in just the same way. So these do tend to go on fairly easy, and then there's a nice snap home. You want to hear that click home when they're done to let you know they're on there nice and securely. There is a spare, it's 1 or 2 spare supply with the cart. And then we're pretty much all ready. I've just got to find where these little ends go on. The protective covers go on the gift wrap organizer ends. And there we have it, folks. That's how to assemble the Gramercy cart from Michael's Craft Store, step by step. So folks, that is the Gramercy cart from Michael's, fully assembled. Nice and easy. I would think between 20 and 30 minutes on there. It's taken me longer to do it when I've been videoing it as I went along, but hopefully you'll find this useful. I call this channel This Is Real Life, as every day is different, and so is every video we do. Anyway folks, hope you found this useful. If you did, then please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.
We hope you liked this video. If you did, please click on the circle image to subscribe. And if you hit subscribe, then don't forget to hit that little notifications bell next to it.